Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma. She will be briefing us on developments with regards to the 2021 local government elections. Ladies and gentlemen, let me welcome Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma. Minister, we are all yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Baloi. Members of the media, fellow compatriots, good afternoon. At the conclusion of our first democratic election in 1994, President Nelson Mandela said, I quote, "Out of the experience of an extraordinary human disaster that lasted too long, must be born a society of which all humanity will be proud," close quote. Today, we are once again confronted by extraordinary circumstances which have been occasioned by the silent enemy, COVID-19. We proudly take this opportunity to recognize the sterling efforts of our health workers who have literally placed their lives on the line to save our lives and our livelihoods. Compatriots, you will also recall that Section 159 of the Constitution, read with the Municipal Structures Act, prescribes that at the end of the 5-year term of local government elections must be held within a period of 90 days. Consequently, on the 21st of April, President Ramaphosa announced that the local government elections will take place on the 27th of October this year. The IEC was supposed to conduct physical registration this last weekend, and we were supposed to proclaim and gazette the date of the election this week. Given the situation in relation to COVID-19, the IEC appointed retired Deputy Chief Justice Dikgang Moseneke to consider whether we could undertake free and fair elections during October. The inquiry received over 4,000 submissions from political parties, health experts, and the general public, concluded its work and handed the report to the IEC on the 20th of July. The report concluded that, I quote, "It is not reasonably possible to or likely that the local government election scheduled for the month of October 2021 will be held in a free and fair manner."
Have you got it?
A close quote. In balancing the need to secure livelihoods and our democratic obligations, we are in agreement with the outcomes of the Moseneke inquiry, which also concluded that should the IEC, I quote, "accept and seek to implement the outcome of the inquiry, it is self-evident that it must approach with deliberate speed a court of competent jurisdiction to seek a just and equitable order to defer the local government elections to no later than the month of February 2022. And on such terms, the court may grant," close quote. The Minister of Culture was then confronted by the question whether the minister is obliged by law to proclaim the election date despite the DCJ's recommendation, for which she sought legal counsel. If not, what in law would entitle her not to do so? Additionally, whether the IEC may request the Constitutional Court to postpone elections where an election date has not yet been proclaimed. The advice also considered whether this means the minister must proclaim the election date leaving the IEC to approach the Constitutional Court for a postponement of the elections. Whether it should be the IEC or the minister that approaches the Constitutional Court for the postponement of the elections, and the role that the minister should play in the litigation if the IEC approaches the Constitutional Court, namely whether she could be co-applicant or amicus curiae. The legal opinion concluded that by resolving to adopt the report, the IEC, by implication, has concluded that the elections held in October 2021 will not be free and fair, and has resolved to follow the recommendations of the report. There is an imperative to protect the right of all persons to life, bodily and physiological integrity, as well as access to healthcare services, all of which rights may be jeopardized if elections continue as initially planned, if the findings in the report are correct. The minister is not empowered to postpone the elections to a date beyond 90 days after the expiry of the term of the municipal councils, as prescribed by Section 159(2) of the Constitution. The nature of the relief that the IEC will seek should determine whether the minister must first proclaim an election date for purposes of an application to the Constitutional Court. What we say without any doubt is that the minister is bound to fulfill her constitutional and statutory obligation to timelessly proclaim the election date for the elections. There is currently no court order that would excuse the minister from fulfilling her constitutional and statutory obligations. If the minister is forced to proclaim the election date before judgment of the Constitutional Court, she may explain that she has been advised to do so to fulfill her constitutional and statutory obligations. If the court postpones the election, the minister would not have acted in contempt of court. Proclaiming the election date for 2021 would only be prohibited if there is a court order postponing the elections to no later than February 2022. As to whether it is the minister or the IEC that should approach the Constitutional Court, the ideal question ought to be whether the Constitutional Court may grant an order postponing the elections. However, since it is the IEC that has to form the view and has formed the view that the elections held within the time period permitted by the Constitution would not be free and fair, it is the IEC that ought to be the applicant. The IEC is obliged to cite the minister as a respondent. The minister will be free to participate in the proceedings as a respondent in any manner she wishes. The minister may abide the decision of the court or actively support the relief that the IEC will seek. The minister may even abide the decision, but file an explanatory affidavit and make written and oral submissions to assist the court to come to a just outcome. It is therefore very clear that we still must go ahead to call the election and gazette the date. This will also enable the IEC to go ahead and file papers in the Constitutional Court to postpone an election that has been called. We are also aware that calling of the election and gazetting will mean the voters' roll will be sealed. The IEC will go to the Constitutional Court on an urgent basis, and hopefully in their papers, that will be taken into account. If the Constitutional Court allows for the postponement, of course, we will abide. So in gazetting the date, which we will do today, we are no way seeking to contradict the inquiry conclusions of the IEC contemplating actions. We are just merely fulfilling our constitutional and statutory obligations. I thank you. But let me just ngithukushwanqathela nje kancane ngesizulu. Bantu bakithi nizokhumbula ukuthi kulonyaka bekufanele kube nokhetho lo hulumeni basekhaya. Umongameli wamemezela ukuthi lolu khetho lizoba mhla ka 28 ku October Mfumfu kuwo lonyaka. I-IEC bekufanele ukuthi yenze i-registration kule weekend edlule. Thina bekufanele ukuthi simemezele ku gazette ukuthi ilanga lokhetho lunini. Kodwa ke i-IEC yabe isicela uJudge Dikgang ukuthi enze uphenyo lokuthi uma ukhetho liba ngalonyaka ngo-October luzokwazi ukuba lube ukhetho olukhululekile. Ijaji ke lalenza lolu phenyo laseliphuma nesinqumo sokuthi cha, uma ukhetho luba ngalonyaka ngoMfumfu, hayi aluzukhululeka, alizuba ukhetho olulungile. Ngakho ke kuzofanele ukuthi i-IEC icela inkantolo efanele ukuthi lolu khetho luhlehliselwe usuku olungadluli kuNhlolanja uFebruary. Kuthe mase kunjalo i-IEC yasamukela leso seluleko sejaji. Umphathiswa ke wakaCooperative wase kufanele aphendule imibuzo ukuthi kusafanele yini aqhubeke amamezela usuku lwangomhla ka 28 kulonyaka kuMfumfu noma ijaji selikhulume kanje. Nokuthi uma engalimemezeli yini emthethweni emvumelayo ukuthi angamemezeli. Nokuthi ubani okufanele enkantolo i-IEC noma ungqongqoshe, umphathiswa, noma nokuthi ke uma i-IEC iya enkantolo umphathiswa yena liphi iqhaza angalibamba kulo yonto yokuya enkantolo. Umphathiswa ke wasecela ukuthi ochwephesha nezingculabuchopho zomthetho zimeluleke. Sithe mazimeluleka sathi unesibopho ngokomthetho wesisekelo nangokomthetho ukuthi aqhubeke alimemezele ukhetho ngoba akakwazi yena ukuhlehlisa ukhetho, kufanele lihlehliswe inkantolo. Uma inkantolo ingakalikhiphi igama lokuthi seliyahlehla ukhetho, umphathiswa kufanele aqhubeke yena alimemezele ukhetho. Futhi i-IEC maye enkantolo kufanele ukuthi iyocela ukuthi kuhlehle ukhetho oselimemezelwe. Kodwa uma ngabe se i-IEC enkantolo singayelekeleli i-IEC ukuthi nathi sibeke uvo lwethu enkantolo singaphambani nezeluleko zejaji uMseneka. Kodwa futhi sisho ukuthi lokho kuyonqunywa inkantolo thina siyokuvuma. Iloko okwenza ukuthi namhlanje ngithi ake sikhulume sinichazele ukuthi uma silimemezela lo suku akusho ukuthi silimemezela ngoba singavumelani nesiphakamiso sejaji uDikgang Mseneka, nokuthi futhi akusho ukuthi asivumelani nokuthi IEC iye enkantolo yomthetho wesisekelo. Senzela nje ukuthi singatholakala enkantolo ukuthi asizange siwenze wethu umsebenzi sase sithatha amandla enkantolo sesitshela ukuthi hayi asezumemezela ngoba ukhetho lizohlehla. Cha, kufuneka thina simemezele senze okusemthethweni kuze kusho inkantolo ukuthi ukhetho liyahlehla. Siyazi ukuthi uma sesigazetha lesimemezelo kusho ukuthi uhlelo lwabavoti liyavalwa. Kodwa siyethemba ukuthi i-IEC maye enkantolo izocela ukuthi iye ngesimo sokuthi lento eyicelayo icela isinqumo esisheshayo. Bese ke futhi ikubeka nokuthi njengoba sesimemezela ukuthi kunokhetho kusho ukuthi uhlelo lwabavoti nalo liyavalwa, so inkantolo ikubheke konke lokho. Ngiyabonga. Sengiyabonga ngiqedile ngizomela imibuzo ke baba Baloyi.
Thank you very much, Minister. Ladies and gentlemen, all the viewers at home, that was Minister of Cooperative Government and Traditional Affairs, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, on developments with regards to the 2021 local government elections. I will then request those who have questions to put them on the chat group, but I already have the first question, Minister, for your attention. The question is from Veli Mokwena. It says, I want Minister to clarify us about constitutional matter regarding postponement of elections. And if indeed elections are postponed, what will happen to councils after 90 days of expired term of office? Because the Constitution says failure to hold elections within that time frames, then administrators must take charge. That is the question from Veli Mokwena, Minister. Minister, that is the question that we have for now. But maybe since Minister is already there, I can quickly squeeze in the second one, Minister, is from Paul Vecchiato from Bloomberg. Says, is the proclaimed date 27 October for local government elections? He wants to know about the date. And also, Minister, let me take the last one for this round. Is from Bali Tetani from Newsroom Africa. And the question is, I would like to know what is the minister's position on Moseneke's report. As government, do you accept the findings and support it? Those are the questions for now, Minister. I think, Minister, from our side, it appears we might have a problem of volume that side.
Continue until the new council is elected. And then the date of the election for now is 27 October 2021, until such time that there is a court order that postpones the election. The question on whether we agree or not agree with the recommendations, the people who must form an opinion whether the elections is going to be free and fair is the IEC. That's why it was the IEC that went and requested the judge to do the inquiry. It is in the electoral legislation that if they so wish, they could do that. So because the IEC has accepted the recommendations, it means it has accepted that the elections cannot be free and fair. If the elections cannot be free and fair, government cannot say elections must go ahead, even if they are not going to be free and fair. So the government will do what the courts say after the IEC has gone to court. But the proclamation of the date is so that there is a date that is proclaimed. When the IEC goes to court, it must say it's postponing the date that have been proclaimed for the 27th of October. Those are my answers. Umthetho uthi amakhansela ayaqhubeka ukuhlangana asebenze kuze kukhethwe amasha. Okusho ukuthi inkantolo yomthetho wesisekelo uma ivuma ukuthi ukhetho luhlehle, kusho ukuthi ke amakhansela ayoqhubeka kuze kukhethwe ama-councils amasha. Usuku oluzogazethwa lumemezelwe olwamemezelwa futhi umongameli lomhla ka-27 kuMfumfu ku-2021 kuwo lo nyaka. Kodwa ke lolo suku luyamenyezelwa, kodwa i-IEC iya enkantolo. Uma inkantolo ithi alihlehle, liyophinde lubuyekezwe lolo suku kufakwe olusha. Uhulumeni uthini ngaloko okushiwo yijaji? I-IEC efanele yenze ukhetho. I-IEC okufanele ibone ukuthi isibo siyavuma yini ukuthi ukhetho lube khona, lube oluvulelekile, lube olukhululekile. I-IEC iye yacela ijaji ukuthi lenze lolo phenyo. Ijaji laselithi malenza uphenyo lathi hayi, libone ngathi ngeke ukhetho malwenziwa kulonyaka kulolu suku oluzomenyezelwa, ngathi ngeke lube ukhetho olukhululekile oluvulekile. Ngakho-ke uhulumeni ngeke athi i-IEC uma isivumelene nokuthi iyasamukela lesimemezelo sejaji, ngoba nayo isiyavuma ukuthi ukhetho ngeke lube oluvulekile. Uhulumeni ngeke akwazi ukuthi athi cha asiqhubekeni noma ukhetho lingeke lube oluvulelekile. Uhulumeni kufanele ukuthi alandele lokho okushiwo i-IEC nokushiwo inkantolo mayelana nokhetho. Ngiyabonga.
Minister, with due apology, when you responded to the first question, we lost sound and the colleagues have missed the response. It was that question about, I want Minister to clarify us about constitutional matter regarding postponement of elections. And if indeed elections are postponed, what will happen to councils after 90 days of expiry term of office? That is the response, Minister, that we struggled with the voice, with the sound when you were responding to.
Oh, I actually said that the law says that the councils, the municipal councils, will continue to function until the new ones are elected. So it means that if the Constitutional Court allows for a postponement, then the councils will continue, the municipal councils will continue until new councils are elected. I don't know whether you can hear me now.
Yeah, no, thank you very much, Minister. Minister, with your kind permission, if we can put on the other two questions now. It is from Natasha Piri from SABC News. And the question is, Minister, did you consult the COPTA committee on the matter? That is the question. The second one is from Gay Davis from Eyewitness News. And the question is, what are the implications of the closure of the voters' roll with today's gazetting of the date? How long would it be closed for? Those are the two questions, Minister, that we have. It appears we are struggling with sound. Minister, may we quickly try to fix the sound since the minister started speaking. I'll ask the team to check if the minister is unmuted so that the minister can be audible on the two questions that have been asked. The technical team.
Am I audible?
Minister, you are now very much audible. The sound is back.
Am I
Minister,
audible? Should I continue?
Yes, Minister, you are audible. Can you start with that
Okay.
first question of Minister? Did you
Yes,
consult?
I was saying that we consulted a legal team because it was important for us to know what to do in light of Judge Decham Senega's report. Legal counsel was very clear that there is no order postponing the elections. We don't have the powers to postpone the elections. Neither does the IEC have the powers to postpone the elections. So the legal team was very clear that we should continue and proclaim so that we are not found to have acted ultra vires by the court. And we then, after consulting with the legal team, we also consulted with the Interministerial Committee, which has a number of departments from government and the IEC. And we also spoke to, we also informed the party liaison committee that is called by the, convened by the IEC. And that is what we did. Thank you. And then about the voters' roll, that's why I was saying that the IEC will have to take that into account when it goes to court. But also the IEC will be taking this matter to court on an urgent basis. So once the court has pronounced, and if it pronounces that the election should be postponed, we will then have to postpone the election. And when we postpone the election, the voters' roll will be opened. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. I think some of the questions were on the voters' roll. You have answered them. We'll make sure that we also share the statement. Minister, let us take a question from Wabile Seabe. It says, Cooperative National have resolved that 5 municipalities in Northwest be dissolved. And I think they want to know what will then be the status of the dissolve, what is the legal implications when the term is already ended, and what will during the period of suspension of those municipalities happen. And the last one from our side, Minister, is from Nokukanya Ntambo of Jacaranda FM. The question is, in the event that the IEC cannot convince the Constitutional Court to grant a postponement, does that mean elections go ahead on October 27, regardless of consensus, or is there another recourse? Thank you very much, Minister.
Thank you very much. The dissolution of municipalities, if they are going to be dissolved, obviously when a municipality is dissolved, the administrators take charge of the municipality. And if it was during the ordinary term, then the by-elections would then be held for those municipalities. But now I will not answer the question definitively because we are waiting to hear what the Constitutional Court will say, whether it will postpone the elections till next year or not. If the Constitutional Court says it's not agreeing to the postponement, I don't think we have another recourse. Because nobody has the powers. There is no legislation that gives the government, Cooperative or IEC the right to postpone the elections. If there was, we would have postponed them without going to court.
Thank you very much, Minister. I think these are the last two now. It says, it is Renee Volgraft from Bloomberg News. When will the voter registration weekend that was due to take place this past weekend now be? And the other one, it's from Tamsanka Masingi. It says, with the voters, I think it means to say voters are all sealed with the proclamation. What does this mean for online registration? And the very last one, which I think is answered in the statement, Minister, but I will read it. It says, what was the purpose of the commission if the minister would want to continue with the proclamation of the election date? And thank you very much, Minister. I think these are the last questions we have.
Thank you very much. The voter registration weekend, that is the matter for the IEC. But for now, it will not be able to open the registration until the court decides. If the court says the election is postponed, and then the election gets postponed, and the registration will be open. What does it mean for online registration? Well, when the voters' roll is sealed, it's sealed for all registration, whether you are registering online or physically. So it means the same thing. And when it does get open, it will be opened for both. What was the purpose of the inquiry? I thought I had explained that the IEC, it's provided in the legislation that the IEC may request this kind of inquiry. The IEC requested the inquiry in the light of COVID and the levels that we're in and the third wave. And the IEC got the report from the judge. The judge has not postponed the elections because he doesn't have that right. He doesn't have that power to postpone the elections. The elections are not yet postponed because the judge doesn't have the right. The IEC doesn't have the power. We, as government and COCTA, do not have the power to postpone the elections. So as we speak, the elections are not postponed. That is why the IEC has to go to court, to the Constitutional Court, to request for the postponement. But the IEC can also request for the postponement for an election that has not been proclaimed. So the election must be proclaimed. The IEC will then say it's asking for postponement for those elections that have been proclaimed. So the proclamation of the election does in no way contradict what the judge is recommending, because the judge himself is recommending going to court, because the judge himself cannot postpone the elections. So we are just doing what we need to do in law, proclaim the elections. Then the IEC goes to court, to the Constitutional Court, to ask for the postponement of those elections that would have been proclaimed for the 28th of October.
Thank you very much,
And
Minister.
so it's not that there is a contradiction between what we are doing and what the judge has recommended and what the IEC is doing. There is no contradiction. We're all doing our part to ensure that this country is run according to the law and according to the Constitution. Thank you. I think I've answered all the questions.
Yeah. No, thank you very much, Minister. Maybe, Minister, we can request Minister to make closing remarks before we adjourn the briefing. But in the closing remarks, maybe Minister might touch also on the repeated question. They say there are many aspects that need to be considered, talking about your contracts with municipal managers, the approval of annual report, etc. There are implications on this. That is from Barney Groenewald. Maybe Minister can also just then give us the closing remarks on those ones, and then we will adjourn the briefing.
Thank you very much, Mr. Baloyi. And thanks to all of the ladies and gentlemen of the media and all the people who are listening to this broadcast. Let me just start by saying we are facing an extraordinary situation that was not envisaged by the people who drafted the Constitution. Nobody thought of a situation like this when the Constitution was drafted. When the Constitution was drafted, people were concerned about having a democratic system where there are regular elections that are predictable, free and fair. And we are actually all of us are navigating uncharted waters. We've never faced this situation since democracy. So all the issues that are being raised are intricacies that arise from this unprecedented situation. And we have to look at them. But the key for now is what the Constitutional Court will say. Because we can't preempt and pretend as though the elections have already been postponed. The elections are not yet postponed until the court says so, that we must postpone the elections. So all those issues we will be looking at. It's an intricate situation. As you can see, we are proclaiming today. The IEC, probably before the end of the week, will be going to court to say it would like to postpone the elections based on the inquiry that was made, occasioned by an extraordinary situation that we were facing as a country. So I hope that everybody will understand that and will bear with all of us and patiently wait to see what the Constitutional Court will say about the situation. Once the Constitutional Court gives us direction, we will then act accordingly and navigate all the intricate issues accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. Ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the end of this briefing by the Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, and the briefing is adjourned. And thank you very much. The statement will be available on all the platforms. Thank you.